I don't see how that's related to urine. Urine. Whoa, Euron. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Glass Candle Podcast, where we look at what is, what could be, and what will come in A Song of Ice and Fire. My name is Arik.
And I'm Lillian, and we admin over at the A Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones Discussions and Theories Facebook group. You can find us by searching ASOIAF / GOT Discussions and Theories.
And today we continue on with verse 4 from A Clash of Kings. This is the very famous House of the Undying massive trippy vision chapter, and we're gonna jump right in, and that'll be the main bulk of our discussion today. As always with the show, we're gonna give a brief chapter summary. We'll discuss who the main character is, who held the biggest influence over the main character and why, any alternative actions the character could have taken, how the events of this chapter affects the other plots going forward. We'll pick an alternative point of view, and then standout appearances and theories. Except we won't do any of that pretty much today. A lot of this is going to just circle around the visions and hallucinations and prophecies and stuff that Daenerys kind of walks through and sees in this house. A lot of our questions can be more or less answered by talking about those. Is that about right?
Yes, I even say that in my summary, basically.
So Lillian's going to go ahead with the summary today. So, hand it off to you.
The chapter opens with Dany and company arriving at Voldemort's associate office, aka the House of the Undying. Her blood riders, Zarozo, Daxos, and Jorah all advise her not to go, which means it's a great idea. Pyat Pree gives Dany strict directions to take the rightmost doors and to go up any stairs. Cool, that should be easy enough. He then has Dany drink Shade of the Evening, and it tastes like a bunch of random stuff, including gold, blood, and most importantly, Drogo's cum. Dany finally heads in and follows Pyat's directions for the most part. She enters rooms on the right, but peeks through some other doors and sees some disturbing shit that we will go over in detail in probably about 5 to 10 minutes. She finally makes it to the Chamber of the Undying, and they're super scary. They whisper cryptic messages while never looking at her. Dany has some weird visions, and when she comes to, the Undying are fondling, molesting, licking, and biting her. It's really weird shit. But then... okay. But then Drogon swoops in to save the day. He destroys the heart of the Undying, and Dany escapes. She makes it out while the house burns and is attacked by a tap-dancing Pyat Pree. The chapter closes with Jorah taking advantage of her frightened state and placing his arm around her. Did I miss anything?
Did you dig into the follow-up chapter?
The follow-up chapter?
Because mine ends with she snaps out and they're all there, and then the chapter ends.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Mine ends with Pyat attacking her. You don't have that?
Let me pull this up.
It's only like 3 paragraphs, maybe.
A mouth descended on one eye, licking, sucking, biting. And then... Oh. Well, that's... So, I don't know... Fuck, you can't see that.
No, I can't.
But there's, like, a whole freaking... No, you can't see shit.
It's just bright white.
But there's, like, 2/3 of the page is just white. So I was like, oh, there's the end. But the next page is the picture of, like, the weird demon things, and then it keeps going, and then I didn't even read the whole chapter.
Do you need a couple minutes?
Nope, I don't think anything important happens there. The dragon sets everything on fire and kills everybody. But it seemed like a decent way to end it. Like, she snapped up and everybody's, like, groping her and biting and sucking on her. And I was like, oh, that's crazy.
They're biting her eye. That's fucking disturbing and gross. That's really gross.
Oh, I didn't even read the whole fucking chapter. That's pretty much the gist of it. Like Lillian said, the detail of the visions the pretty much the main focus of what we talk about today. We'll dig into those details coming up soon. So the main character of the chapter is our first point, and clearly it's Dany on this one, right?
Yes, I completely agree because there's nobody else really in the chapter. Well, there's things in the chapter. There's no one. Yeah.
Yeah. Clearly the main focus is Dany and what she sees. That one's easy, over and done. Who had the biggest influence over the main character and why? Again, this is a pretty straightforward. The visions that hold the biggest influence over because it projects all the way through to A Dance with Dragons. And then if you want to look at who led her to the visions, it's Pietri and the Undying.
Say his name again?
Pietri?
No, yeah.
Pietri, whatever.
I agree. I just had the House of the Undying. I kind of lumped them together since I don't know how much influence he has in the house and what exactly it does, if that makes sense. Like if he just, I think we talked about this last time, if he just works for them because he's not an Undying, right?
Correct.
So I don't know how much. Well, I guess you could count it as influence since biggest influence is Shade of the Evening. I changed my answer.
Oh, well, yeah, true.
Because if she doesn't drink that, is she still going to see the trippy shit in the house?
Yeah, Pre leads us to believe that she won't, that she needs to drink it for that. I included him because her whole reason for going to the building was to get help from him. And then he leads her in and gives her the instruction. Always takes the door to the right and always goes up the stairs. So.
Is he, like, not allowed in the house?
But basically it's... I don't know. I don't think anybody has any idea how the rules of the house go, or of the Undying, or what role the Warlocks play in them. Because the Warlocks eventually jump out and try to go get her, right? So
just Piet.
The Undying
are the Undying Warlocks? What the fuck are they?
I don't know what they are.
So confused.
I don't know. But the Warlocks go out to try to get Dany. That's true. That's fact. That's canon. Because Euron captures them.
Yes, in later books, yes.
Right. So after this all happens, the Warlocks go out and they try to get him. Not the Undying, because Dany burns the Undying. So the Warlocks go at Pri and his buddies.
Yes. If he doesn't live in the House of the... Where do they live?
They might live there.
Okay,
I don't know. Like I said, the whole situation regarding it is... It's unclear, it's unspecified, so...
And we'll never know, so we
Maybe
can just make up whatever we want.
Might be the actual leader. Undying serve the Warlocks. Who knows? So we move on to... I forget what our formal answer or question is.
Alternative, knowing how the future plays out.
Ah, right. Yeah, knowing how the future plays out, what should Dany have done differently to avoid that result?
I got nothing.
I suppose she does overthink a lot of the prophecies and stuff like that. And it makes her... I don't think it makes her paranoid. A lot of people say the visions and everything kind of get her distrustful of everyone, and that's completely not the case at all, because she seems to trust a lot of people as she goes forward. But it is always in the back of her head, so if she didn't, then she wouldn't have that nagging feeling in the back. It'd just be just all that bullshit that Quaithe says to her without the Undying. So I guess, maybe, but it'd be a lot less interesting.
So then what are you saying, that she shouldn't have gone to the House of the Undying?
Yeah, that's the only other alternative action that I could think of.
Okay.
Again, which would be pretty dumb and boring and pointless.
Because this is the best part of her Clash of Kings arc. Because otherwise it's fucking boring as shit.
Yeah, nothing fucking happens. So how does the events of this chapter affect the other plots? We're dropping little bits for this one, I think for obvious reasons. A lot of these prophecies affect or refer to other people that seem to come into this, but we'll touch on those whenever we get to theories in more detail. Next up is alternative point of view, and I think this is pretty easy to be none. Dany is the only person that we could look through with this.
I have Drogon. I picked Drogon. I like animals.
So my annotations.
Oh, fuck
my
off.
annotations It says that George R. R. Martin has stated that dragons think differently than humans.
I don't believe you.
You don't believe me that my annotation says this?
Yes, I think you're making it up.
Martin has remarked that dragons are intelligent but speechless. He has compared their mental processes to an alien intelligence, suggesting that the dragon process things differently from humans.
Okay, so that doesn't mean I can't use them as a POV.
Sure, it'd just be entirely different. And also, Drogon didn't even drink the Shade of the Evening,
He
but he was
didn't.
still able to react to the
Yes,
stuff.
he seemed like he heard like the rats or whatever moving through the walls, and he knew to chip at the door that she wasn't in the right room. So he had a sense of what was going on.
React to the visions at all. So he just probably saw like some dank, moldy ass, weird castle thing the whole time.
Hmm.
He reacted to the rats, but that was kind of before the shade kicked in, I think, or it was before Dany saw anything.
There was shit. I didn't write the exact thing
And
down, but in one of them,
it's
in
hard to
one of the
tell what he's
rooms.
screeching at.
All right, fine, I'll give you that. Nah, I still pick the dragon.
Next up is quotes, but the quotes is going to be all the visions and theories and stuff that we'll talk about in theories,
How do you not
and then
have
we
any
move on to
quotes outside of those?
because they're the only things worth mentioning. Oh no, I did text you, right? There's one part of one vision where Dany walks into the room
Um,
with all the magicians and shit, and she sees the perfect tit,
did you text
and
me
I was
about
like,
that?
oh, nice. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did.
I'm pretty sure you didn't.
Yeah, well, check your history after the episode. But yeah, Dany sees a perfect tit, and I was like, oh, cool, nice. But you actually had quotes, right?
Yeah, I do. I do.
That aren't the visions.
That aren't the visions.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
All right, so when Dany first gets there with everybody, Jogo's trying to keep her from going. Jorah's trying to keep her from going. Zarro's trying to keep her from going. Um, and I think Zarro is the one that says it specifically. Warlocks are bitter creatures who eat dust and drink of shadows. And so that just made me think, are they related to Shadowbinders in some sense? If they drink of shadows, does that mean they could take the powers of a Shadowbinder?
No, I don't think so at all.
Okay, fine.
Because Quaithe is a Shadowbinder.
Yes. But obviously her and
And
Pyatt aren't on the same team.
right, I don't think so. I think Zara's just talking in metaphor when he says they drink the stuff of shadows because he's just always putting them down as dusty and living in this bullshit, shitty ass little castle, and he has this awesome fucking palace.
He also has a pleasure barge, which awaits. Turn away from this folly, most stubborn of queens. I have flutists who will soothe your troubled soul with sweet music, and a small girl whose tongue will make you sigh and melt. What the fuck? Small girl. That's why? Why?
She could just be short of height.
Like a midget?
No, just short.
Okay, but she's still calling her a girl, not like a small woman.
You could be just. Go figure. I'm the Zaro apologist on this episode.
Right? What the fuck?
Yeah, no, Zara's a fucking creep.
Fucking weirdo. Alright.
Which is weird. Like, I guess this turns back our previous theory where Zaro is gay because he has pretty boys in his castle. Apparently, he also has pretty little girls, so he's he's got the Deadpool thing where he just fucks anything.
Pansexual.
Pansexual, yeah, or
Yeah.
bi, I guess. But
Zaro
he,
seems like he'd be down to fuck a goat.
yeah, I was about to say he was talking very reverently about the oxes pulling the carriage uh, last chapter. So
Alright. Do we want to talk about all the things that Dany tasted?
um, it tasted like a lot of stuff, but cum stood out to me,
So,
to put it bluntly, I guess.
spreading through her chest, the fingers of fire coiling around her heart. Her tongue was taste like honey and anise and cream. like mother's milk and Drogo's seed, like red meat and hot blood and molten gold. How do you know what some of these things taste like?
I don't know. I guess it's just a
A feeling?
yeah, like this is what I imagine molten gold tastes like.
It's fucking weird.
But it is jumping way far ahead. When Arya's in
House
the
in black and white.
hotel of black and white, she drinks a thing that tastes like shit at first, and then it starts tasting like all these familiar stuff that she really likes.
Are you talking about the candle?
Yeah, that's what it is. Candle. It smells like.
Jojen paste tastes like shit and then tastes better.
Okay,
Arya
so
has the candle.
you said that's wrong. Arya doesn't do anything like that. Bran
No,
does, so you're right about that.
Arya has a candle that changes smells and reminds her of home. Bran eats Jojen paste, which tastes gross, and then it reminds him of his mother.
Okay, so I'm half right. So
You got
Dany
a
tastes the
Stark.
thing that tastes like shit, but then is like, oh, actually, this is really good. Bran eats some shit, and he's like, this is gross. Oh, actually, it tastes really good. And then Arya smells some shit, and he's like, hey, cool.
Yes.
So it's just interesting how it's all knotted up together. And the interesting about that too is the shade of the evening trees.
Yes.
They're almost like a direct inverse of the weirwood trees.
The counterpart of the weirwood.
Yeah,
Yes.
the black bark and blue leaves compared to the white bark and the red leaves. So
Yep.
interesting, I guess, but I'm not the kind of theorist that can make
Nope.
ideas based on that. It's just like, oh yeah, that's weird. I guess they're the same, kind of, or the opposite.
Okay.
So who knows?
All right. Another one I wanted to point out. So this is
Before you jump,
God.
we
What?
know the dead tree elves, their ghosts lived in the weirwoods. Is there some kind of like inverse ghost that lives in shade of evening trees? Do you think that's what it's supposed to mean or signify or something?
I'm just trying to remember what the name of the trees are right now.
Shade of the evening trees.
No, they have a name.
Sure, I'll look it up. It is
It's not in this one. I don't
black
know.
bark trees, inky blue leaves.
Maybe not the Jogos Night. There was the Iroquois. There was a mythical little people in Essos. Were they the tree?
Iroquois is an actual Indian tribe.
Yeah, I know that wasn't
Or
the right.
Native American. Excuse me.
I grew up on a reservation. That's why I knew it wasn't the right word. There's one that starts with an I, and it's like little tree people. I believe they've gone extinct, but there are theories that they were related to the children.
Oh yeah, the Associate Children of the Forest Trios things.
Do you know what I'm talking about, or are you just fucking around?
No, I vaguely remember, but I don't give a shit about the Associate history really, or legends or myths and stuff. So I don't really remember what they're called, but I do remember reading about them once and being like, oh, okay, cool.
Okay, well, you asked what the fuck is in their trees, and that's what I'm saying is in their trees, because they're the counterpart of the children.
Got it.
All right.
Nice.
Anyways.
Are they evil?
Well, if the children are bad, then their opposite would be good.
Shade of the evening trees are good guys. Nice. They'll flip everything on its head. No, actually, they're probably all just a bunch of evil shitheads. Because there is no good guys.
They're all out for themselves and build up these gods that don't exist for purposes that are just selfish and
Yeah, like in this,
Yeah.
in the name of species preservation, they do bad shit. Probably. This is what the children of the forest do.
they're creepy little fucks. Okay, so
Anyway.
while Dany is inside the House of the Undying, when she gets lost and she is this is when Drogon hears all the rats and the rustling and stuff. She says, "Could there be a secret door? A door I cannot see?" Another torch went out. Another. "The first door on the right," he said. "Always the first door on the right. The first door on the right." It came to her suddenly. "Is the last door on the left?" I would have never gotten that.
Oh yeah, no, I'd have been fucked.
Like, even when I read it now, I try to visualize it. I'm just like, the first door on the right. Like,
I mean, I can see how she would find her way to it. She turns around and looks at the hallway, and then the first door on her right would be the last door on the left.
I guess. I don't know, but I thought that was really smart of her, and I totally wouldn't have gotten that at all. Um,
New theory: Daenerys is smart.
mhm.
Holy shit! I just broke our entire group to shreds.
All right, I just have one more. Um, okay, so after she sees the fake Pyatt who turns into a worm, she says, finally the stair opened. To her right, a set of wide wooden doors had been thrown open. They were fashioned of ebony and weirwood, house of the black and white, the black and white grains swirling and twisting in strange interwoven patterns. They were very beautiful, yet somehow frightening. The blood of the dragon must not be afraid. Dany said a quick prayer, begging the warrior for courage and the Dothraki horse god for strength.
The Dorkraki, or
Yeah. So she prayed to the warrior. Have we ever known her to like worship the seven?
not really.
So that just kind of stood out to me because I don't remember her ever thinking about any gods really. I know we learn through her that the Dothraki kind of raid other places and take the statues of their gods, but I don't remember anything about her actually worshiping something.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's ever written explicitly in the text, but she was raised in quote unquote Bravos and grew up and spent a lot of time in Pentos and Mir and all that stuff, which is the kind of side of the world that the Seven originated from, you know?
Angelos?
hmm So it makes sense that the Free Cities, at least those that northern half area, kind of follow that religion. Obviously, when you get down to Mir and Lies and everything like that, you kind of get more of a mixed population with Valorism due to
Well, Bravos
Volantis
has
being in
everything
close
though.
proximity. True, because Bravos was like the secret haven, but with Andalos being so close to Pentos and Pentos being like a real, actual city as opposed to Bravos being a massive seaport where all kinds of people integrate and everything like that, um, I'm not too surprised that Dany was raised in a Faith of the Seven sort of household, you know? So it didn't quite stand out to me. I was just like, oh, okay.
I
Interesting that she's
wonder I wonder
crossing
if there's
streams.
anything that like says anything about the religions of Pentos. I don't believe there is. Um
I can't recall if it's written in the World Book or not.
okay,
I mean,
that's
it doesn't
valid.
say anything about Pentos's tax policy either, so.
Nobody would care about that except for me and one other person. Two other
But
people.
apparently it's enough to criticize Lord of the Rings over.
Oh my god, if I could talk to Preston about economics of Westeros, that would be amazing.
You wouldn't know anything, it'd be all just speculation because
It doesn't matter.
George R. R. Martin
He
doesn't
has a
write.
degree in economics.
Sure, I'm not saying he doesn't or anything about that, but you'd all just be doing guesswork and theories because George R. R. Martin doesn't write tax policies.
He doesn't write tax policies, but based off of the trade of the free cities, it not necessarily tax, but you can tell the economic environment on capitalism versus consumerism and free trade and a bunch of other shit that I've had this discussion before, and I don't want to think right now.
But wouldn't you just be extrapolating all that kind of stuff?
Okay, and what else are theories? It's the same fucking shit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you'd be having the same kind of conversation like you do about theories. There's nothing in there to really dig into, is there? It'd all just be guesswork. Like what is the main trade export of Pentos?
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Bravos, you know it's not wood, but like what else
Yeah.
do you got? You know? So it's I don't know. That's just always a hilarious little gripe that I found George R. R. Martin complaining about Tolkien about. It's Aragorn's tax policy. Bitch, you didn't write tax policies either. Shut up.
Maybe it's gonna be an appendix to his book. I don't know.
That's wins a winner. That's what's taking it so long. He's writing tax policies with Dorne and their trade agreements with Old Town, even
No,
though the
Dorn would
social
have a free trade
relationship.
policy.
Oh, would they?
Dorn would have a free trade policy. Yes.
And Westeros wouldn't?
The Okay, I don't want to get into this right now.
Okay, so standout appearances. Is that what we're on?
Yeah.
Is that what we were talking about?
I was done with quotes, so yes, we are on standout.
Um, oh fuck, I can't remember if the perfect hit was my standout or my quote.
I am so like I don't want to say 100%, but I'm like 95% sure you did not text me anything about a perfect tit. You text me about Viserys and Rhaegar, but nothing about a perfect tit.
It came right after that. Um, yeah, so I sent the suggestion that we sent like that we discuss like what our standout vision was, and that'll kind of lead us into theories.
You did?
Yeah, like before we started recording. That's what mentioned to you when you weren't fucking paying attention to me.
My bad. I thought you meant when we were talking about the tit. Wait, but I have an actual standout before that.
Oh, okay, sure.
I'll give you one guess on what it is.
Dany, Dragon, the Drogon.
Drogon. Drogon, because he's the perfect protective child.
Oh, right, because I didn't read the end of the chapter. Anyway, so my standout theory, or standout vision, I guess, to lead us into theories, was the Rhaegar vision. Um, Pretty much for the sole purpose that that's my go-to Rhaegar plus Lyanna equals Daenerys, quote unquote backup evidence or whatever. It's the whole part where Rhaegar looks at her and is just like, it's got to be one more. Stares intensely at Dany.
I've got like 5 different things for that when we
Yeah.
get to the visions.
So that kind of leads us into theories where we're going to talk about
Wait,
the visions. Right?
wait. What about my standout, you fucking asshole?
You said it was Drogon the Dragon.
No, my standout was Drogon, but if you want to talk about standout vision,
Oh, okay.
because I
Well,
had
fair
2
enough.
things written down.
I didn't know you had something prepared since you weren't listening to me when I suggested it.
Half the time I'm not listening to you.
I thought it was one of those halves. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So my standout was Rhaego because he would have been a shit person. He's terrifying.
Interesting.
We can move
Counter
on now.
argument. Counter argument. So, and this kind of ties into the daughter of death sort of thing that gets mentioned in here.
I have so many things.
But what Dany does there with sacking these cities is exactly what Rhaego was supposed to do, quote unquote. Rhaego was probably like Slaver's Bay was probably going to be number one in his target. Well, number two after.
Karth.
Um, I was going to say the Lazarene village, the sheep people. What's it called?
They're an easy hit though. Like
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Drogo,
So technically, I guess they'd be first
but
because it's
Drogo's
on the
like
way.
dream, quote unquote, or whatever, was to always get the milkmen. He would want to take Karth.
True, but what I'm saying is what Dany does in Slaver's Bay is almost exactly what Rhaego would have done. So he would have freed slaves, and then he would have pushed across and probably freed slaves in Karth, freed slaves in Volantis. I assume they have slaves in Cahor?
It's
Because
one of
probably,
Valyria's children, so I don't see why not.
I mean, everywhere in Essos except for Bravos has slaves, so I assume Cahor and all those other places. So he'd have been Rhaego the Liberator, the stallion who fucks the world. A lot of people would die too, but I don't think it's necessarily him being a bad person,
Okay.
except for the Lazarene village that he would kill.
I don't
So,
agree with you, whatever. Oh, yeah, perfect tit. You
boom,
did.
Eric's right. Eric's right.
I'm glad I didn't bet on that because I almost wanted to bet on it.
End podcast. We're on to theories. So, I listed a bunch of them out and wrote a lot of shit.
I wrote every single vision out. Well, not out, but like what the vision was and then what I thought of each one. Do we want to read the actual paragraph or how are
Oh,
we doing this?
you can write or read the individual paragraph. So,
Okay.
how about that? I'll say the title of it, and then you can read the actual thing, and then I'll read my notes. You read your notes.
Okay.
But I have notes in like 3 different areas. All right. So the first one that she sees, I think, is the woman with the dwarves, right?
Yes, it is.
All right. So what does that one say?
I gotta find it. Hold on.
Oh my god. Thought we were ready. This is going to be long if you actually read the whole paragraph of each one.
I don't. Hold on. The mold-eaten carpet. In one room, a beautiful woman sprawled naked on the floor while four little men crawled over her. They had radish pointed faces and tiny pink hands, like the servitor who had brought her the glass of shade. One was pumping between her thighs, another savaged her breasts, worrying at the nipples, with his wet red mouth tearing and chewing. The thought of their little hands really freaks me out. It just does.
That's not the thing that weirded me out. It's the whole five little dwarves fucking this person.
Oh, but it's so easy for what it means, though.
Oh yeah, definitely. So the accepted translation of this is the woman is Westeros and the little dwarves are the four kings.
Yes.
And then you can swap out the fourth one, or Stannis, Robb, Joffrey, and then you can swap out Renly or Balon, which however way you want to splice it.
Based on the timing of when she's in the House of the Undying,
Right.
opposed to when people died.
And I started categorizing these as real or fake, which pretty much most of these are real anyway. And I guess this correlates to the present time. It's not a past vision. It's not a future vision. It's a current timeline sort of thing.
I agree.
So that one was easy. Smarter people than us did that work. So the next up is the Feast of Corpses.
Yes. So farther on, she came upon a feast of corpses. Savagely slaughtered, the feasters lay strewn across overturned chairs and hacked trestle tables, asprawl in pools of congealing blood. Some had lost limbs, even heads. Severed hands clutched bloody cups, wooden spoons, roast fowl, heels of bread. There's no and there. There should be an and there. In a throne above them sat a dead man with the head of a wolf. He wore an iron crown and held a leg of lamb in one hand, as a king might hold a scepter, and his eyes followed Dany with mute appeal. Red wedding.
So this,
duh.
yeah, that's definitely the Red Wedding. I think the whole wolf head on a body gives it away. Maybe.
Maybe just a little bit.
So we know from having read Storm of Swords already, spoiler alert, that this is real.
Yes.
And it is a future vision. Anything else to say about that?
I just thought it was when is so this is happening in Clash.
Correct.
But Storm opens with a note from George that even though things are happening, they're not necessarily happening chronologically. So the timeline's a little all over the place. So we're assuming this happened before the Red Wedding, and I'm relatively sure it's before the Red Wedding.
Me too.
But just trying to figure out the timing of her vision and then the Ghost of Highheart's vision of the Red Wedding, and then when the Red Wedding actually happened would be interesting.
Well, I think the Highheart and Daenerys here are both before it.
Yes, they both are.
So that's two back-to-back that we have real visions that kind of demonstrates that this isn't just a giant mind trick that they're playing on her. So the next one I think is the House of the Red Door, right?
Yes. Oh Lord, this is a lot to read. She remembered those great wooden beams.
You don't need to read the whole thing, just to...
All right, fine. And there outside the window, a lemon tree. The sight of it made her heart ache with longing. It was the house with the red door, the house in Bravos. And then Willem Derry comes out and tries to get her to go to him. And then she says, he's dead, the sweet old bear. He died a long time ago. And she backed away and ran.
So this is kind of a real vision. It's an accurate representation of her house that she remembers. The Willem Derry telling her to come in is obviously the fake part, but this is a, quote, real vision as much as the last two were. And it's a past vision.
Past vision, yes.
So that's 3 for 3 that are real.
Well, it's just, do you want to bring up that it's up for debate on whether or not she's correct about her vision?
Well, she could probably be correct, but there's nothing about that vision that suggests it's in Bravos, and there's also nothing in the vision that suggests it's not in Bravos.
Well, she says in Bravos.
Right, that's just what she remembers it being, though.
That's what I'm saying. She could
It's,
be wrong.
well, yeah, but the point of the vision isn't to show her that she was in Bravos. It was to show her the house with the red door,
Okay, and
or
then
the room.
I have a
Is what I'm
question
saying.
though too on it.
Okay.
So she refers to Willem Derry as the old bear. Like, why is he? Why did she call him her old bear?
He was big and hairy, like a bear.
Okay, well, it's just like
I don't think there's
him.
any kind of correlation with the Mormon if you're going in that direction.
I was gonna say, so if that's her old bear, since I'm doing Storm of Swords at the same time with the reread group, John just asked about the old bear's death. So, like, is she supposed to parallel John and their old bears, like, raised them? That's stupid, huh?
Well, I don't see how it would work because Ned raised John.
Ned raised
Not
John, but Mormont kind of shaped him as a teenage. Like, in the short amount of time that they were together, Mormont kind of shaped him from the edgy teenager that he was into someone who was fit for command.
right, but with that, if it was supposed to be a parallel, then that would mean that Willem Derry shaped Danny in some similar way, and he didn't.
Fine.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I don't
I
think
just thought
that.
it was weird. The like, I don't know, just calling him Old Bear. Like,
I mean, I suppose at the baseline, like there's two father figures that John and Daenerys both had that they both refer to as old bears. But as far as their role in their lives, I don't think so.
okay,
I mean, tenuous, sure, but I don't think it's just in my opinion. I don't think it's a significant parallel.
okie dokie.
Next up is Eris,
Yes. So Ares, she basically sees. Is it the Great Hall? Is that what it's called?
the throne room.
The throne room. Thank you. The throne room of the Red Keep, where the dragon skulls are hanging down, and she's. I don't know if she knows it's her father though, because she doesn't say anything about it. She just calls him old man. And he says, "Let him be king over charred bones and cooked meat. Let him be king of the ashes." And we know that that is Ares, but she never says anything here about it being her father.
Right. It's definitely Ares.
And that
Um,
definitely happened.
yes, definitely happened. We have that verified by
Jamie.
Jamie.
hmm
Does Barrison verify that either? I don't think so. But Jamie
Jamie's
definitely does.
Jamie in his chapter says word for word, "Let him be the king of ashes" and all that stuff.
Right. So that's another real vision, hallucination, whatever you want to call it, and it's another past one. So that's four straight that I think establish that this isn't just a load of bullshit, and that the prophecies and like the visions that we're seeing actually mean something. Kind of adds weight and importance to everything else that we're going to see coming up, right?
Yes.
Do you?
My dog is making noise, so sorry. But yes,
Oh.
I agree. They've been, because we know the red wedding does happen, we know that these are true things.
Well, yeah, I mean, and not just with the Red Wedding. Like we had four straight, and I think that if I'm going to go meta on it, I think that's the author trying to establish credibility, like with what's going to happen in this chapter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because he could have kind of thrown these around in a different order. Yeah, I get it.
Right. And the Jamie quote about the Eris thing that happens past or after this chapter, correct?
Jamie doesn't have a POV until Storm.
Right. But he doesn't say this to Catelyn in the last chapter, does he?
I don't believe so.
I know we did that chapter, but that was weeks ago.
I just did a Jamie chapter, and I'm relatively sure that it was in it in Storm of Swords.
Okay, so at least two of them,
Happen in Storm, or are
yeah, two of
confirmed
them
in Storm.
happen after this chapter occurs, and then the House with the Red Door and the Westeros, the woman dwarf gangbang is just
Oh,
stuff that we can infer. But I think it's definitely establishing from a writer and reader perspective that this is stuff is not just be tossed off. And then the next one up is the Rhaegar vision.
yes. Okay, so she. This is where you had an issue. She sees a man and thinks it's Viserys, but then decides that it's not him.
Well, hold
Um,
on. because my issue with this is the way it's written. She sees the she sees Eris, and then da, Drogon shrieked, his claws digging through her silken skin, but the king on his throne never heard, and Dany moved on. Viserys was her first thought the next time she paused.
Yeah, so she moved
So
on, and the next time she paused, so the next
right,
door
so
she saw.
when it doesn't say anything about the next door she saw. The way I read it the second time through, it was like she sees the king on his throne, Drogon scratches her, and she's like, okay, and then Viserys, and then she paused. That's how I read it the second time. I'm like, that's not how it's supposed to be, but you said no, I'm being stupid, and I was like, well, I
Yes.
guess, but it doesn't say anything about her looking through another door.
It's
So I can
implied that every time she's stopping or pausing, it's because she's looking into a room.
right, I understand that, but the way it was written here, she moved on and then she paused and thought Viserys. So
The next time. Okay. Anyways, so she thought it was Viserys and decides that it's not Viserys. I don't think she ever says that it's Rhaegar. We just know that it's
no,
Rhaegar. Um, she sees the man that looks like her brother, and he's talking about his son named Aegon. What a better name! What better name for a king? Then the woman asks, "Will you make him a song?" And the man says, "He is the prince that was promised. His is the song of ice and fire. Dragon must have three heads." All of this stuff. So before we get to RLD, I just want to say George is on record confirming that it's Elia. It's not Lyanna, it's Elia in this vision.
right, it's Rhaegar and Ilya.
Yes. Okay, so now the dragon must have three heads. There must be one more, he said. Though whether he was speaking to her or the woman in bed, he could not say. Doesn't it say that he's like looking at her?
Yeah, you skipped over that. It says
Oh,
he has a song. The man replied, "He is the prince that was promised, and his is a song of ice and fire." He looked up when he said it, and his eyes met Dany's. It seemed as if he saw her standing there beyond the door. "There must be one more," he said. Though whether he was speaking to her or the woman in the bed, she could not say. The dragon has three heads. And then he played a harp.
all right. So that in conjunction with a quote, I think, 2 Dany chapters earlier from Jorah, where he says, "There is more of Rhaegar in you, but even Rhaegar could be slain, blah, 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 blah." So that's one thing that adds to it. And then there's a couple other things in the Undying visions that I have written down, which we can get to when we get there, that add to the whole RLD thing. My only issue when I started thinking about this, because I do buy into it, I like it. Part of the reason I like it is because he says the dragon must have three heads. So he's got Rhaenys and Aegon. So you would think if he's trying to recreate the conquest, that he would need a Visenya, right? So he needs a girl. But
Hmm.
then I kind of talked myself out of that because Visenya was the eldest. So if that's what he was doing, shouldn't Rhaenys' name be Visenya?
I mean, that's a very nitpicky way to look at it, though, isn't it?
Unless Rhaenys is Rhaenys because she's part Dornish and Rhaenys went missing in Dorne.
Well, no, like I don't think he's like, oh, well, my first one has to be Visenya, and then my second one has to be this. I think he was just trying to recreate.
Two girls and a guy.
Yeah, but he like the part that falls apart a little bit is that how convenient that he needed a second girl, and then there's Dany, right? Like he needs a second girl, and it's not John because he needed a second girl. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's a very convenient way to figure this whole thing out. Um, Something you didn't mention that heavily put like in conjunction with this is I think it's in a Game of Thrones where she has a dream and she sees Rhaegar, but she lifts the helm, but it's her face
And it's
instead.
herself. Yes, I couldn't remember where that was. I was trying to mark it in the
Right.
book. Okay.
So Dany has a dragon dream, to which we know are prophetic and most of the time turn out to be 100% true. Most of the time, 100%. Um, and then here, Rhaegar is looking directly at her and saying, you know, there must be one more, all this other stuff, and then the subtle hints in conversation, not from the character to character, but from the author to us, how Daenerys has more Rhaegar in her than Viserys because, you know, one doesn't have like I don't have my brother's attributes because we're brothers. Like my brother's kid would have my brother's attributes because father son sort of type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you
Okay.
don't mimic how like your brothers and siblings act.
Well, you're not getting your genetic material from your sibling.
Exactly. Like you don't look at your sister's kid and be like, oh, he has his aunt in him. It's like, no, that's weird.
Yes.
Like he's got a lot of his brother in her. It's like that's a weird thing to say. Like, oh, like father's daughter and all that kind of sort of shit. So
Okay.
subversion lovers will be like, oh, that's the subversive of George R. R. Martin. Like she's following her brother's footsteps instead of her dad. Oh, it's cool, but I mean, come on.
What
Not
the fuck
everything is
ever.
subversion for the sake of subversion. If that was the case, then Sam would be a secret Targaryen, which there are theories for.
That Sam is
uh,
the real Aegon.
yeah, right. I saw that shit. And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Holy god!" Um, I think that's all of her visions in the hallway, correct? Because then the lights start going out. She panics. She sees Pyat Pri, and he tries to like, "Oh fuck, you're done already," and she's like, "Bullshit," and he turns into a worm. I don't think there's anything to dissect there, is there?
No. I think we're good.
And then she runs up the stairs into the party where she sees the perfect tit.
For the wizard's room, yes.
Yep, and everybody has pointed hats with stars on them.
I thought that was so funny the first time I read it. I was like, that is that what they really wear there?
It was like jarring. I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
It's the fuck.
Mickey
Now I'm
Mouse's hat
forgetting the
from
word.
Fantasia.
No, I was thinking the Great Hall from Harry Potter. I forget what it's actually called. If it's actually called the Great Hall or not. Because in Harry Potter they wear pointed wizards hats and stuff like that. I was like, oh, cool. Magic tables with food that just pops out of them. But I don't think there's anything to break down in there either. It was just a trick vision. That was a fake one.
Yeah.
Same with Pyre Pre.
But they tried to keep her there, though.
Right. And then she gets to the wizard's chamber, the anteroom or whatever it's called, where the corpses of the undying are sitting next to around a table with a floating enlarged beating heart. Right? Nothing else I missed?
Yep, that's it.
Um, they whisper dragons a bunch. Mother of dragons.
All right, so Mother of Dragons, Child of Three. I had that.
Pointed blue nipple, hard as leather.
Hold on, god damn it.
You were jumping ahead. I had to point out the
Your
opposite.
nipple, I thought your nipple was after that.
Nope.
Your
Because
nipple is after Mother of Dragons. Dragons, dragons, dragons.
yeah, you started talking about child of three.
Oh, you're right. It's like two
Mm,
paragraphs later. My bad.
mm.
All right, go ahead with your old withered nipple.
That's it.
That's it? You don't have anything to
Yeah.
say about it?
No, it's like the opposite of what she saw in the other room.
All right. So, Mother of Dragons, wait, right? Mother of
Yeah,
Dragons,
mother
Child of
dragon,
Three.
child of three.
Hello, Rhaegar's daughter. He just said there must be one more. Like, duh.
To be fair, Ares had three kids,
They had more, though, that didn't make it.
so they
So
didn't
he had
have.
three living children. No, Rhaella gave birth, but the people, they died.
So they
You don't
didn't.
count that as having a child?
It's the kid. Well,
You have a kid and it dies a couple months later. You don't say that you had a child?
they were months old.
I don't know. But I
Oh,
know.
well, you can't make up shit to justify your fucking theory and then be like, I don't know if this is true actually.
No, they did have other children though. I know they had that Rhaella had live births, and Ares thought that their servants were killing them or something. They were killing the kids.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, but you
They
just asked.
lived?
They were live births, and then at some point they died. I think one of them made it to almost 2 years old.
Okay.
But there were other children, is my point.
Fair enough. So that's why she doesn't understand then.
All right, so then after that is the three fires, or do you have anything before the three fires?
Yeah, kind of. I don't have any analysis to it, but it does. She asks them, or she says, "I have come for the gift of truth, the long haul, the things I saw. Were they true visions or lies, past things or things to come? What did they mean?" And all she gets in response says, "Shape of shadows, morrow's not yet made. Drink from the cup of ice, drink from the cup of fire." The first part, I get it. Shapes of shadows, not real. Morrow's not yet made. Could be true, could be not. The Feast of Corpses, the Westeros one, fair enough. Shit's not true yet. Future visions. No idea what drink from the cup of ice, drink from the cup of fire means. No fucking clue.
I have nothing.
I don't think anybody talks about that. I actually went and watched a couple theory videos and read a couple things. No one talks about this.
Well, then you should come up with something.
They're telling her to read the books, I guess, because the book is called A Song of Ice and Fire, and they say drink from the cup of ice. And you get where I'm going here?
R plus L?
No,
Oh.
they're telling her to read George R. R. Martin's book because
Yes, I got that, but then after you kept saying it because
to,
it
to
was
read is to
redundant.
drink.
Yes,
The cup is the
okay.
book.
Okay, the cup is the book and it's the Song of Ice and Fire, yes. But if Lyanna's pussy is ice and Rhaegar's dick is fire.
Other way around, actually.
She's ice. Lyanna would be ice.
Subversion.
Oh, fuck off. All right, so Three Heads has the dragon, Mother of Dragons, Child of Storm. Three fires must you light. One for life, one for death, one to love. So three fires. I think one for life is to give life to the dragons. Do you agree?
Yeah, that seems the most easy explanation.
Okay, a fire for death.
I don't think it's come yet.
All right, and a fire for love.
Don't think it's come yet.
Okay,
I think they have to happen in that order.
Okay.
Along with each of the other three, the three mounts and the treasons. I think it's all chronological. So we're gonna look for a giant bonfire that kills somebody important. Just Dany burns a fuck ton of people, but not important people. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So you can't be like, oh, well, that slave or that asshole harpy or whatever the fuck, the Krasny's, right? The guy who sells her the Unsullied.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's meant to be the fire for death because Krasny's isn't important.
No, yeah.
So I think the fires haven't happened yet.
Okay, so then after that one is the mounts. Three mounts must you ride. One to bed, one to dread, and one to love. So I automatically associated Drogo with mount because horse. But if you're saying they need to happen in order, so unless she finds another love, because she truly loved Drogo. And I'm thinking of it sexually, so.
I'm thinking literally, three mounts, three vehicles, things to transport her from.
All right, so what would she get on for a bed? What does that mean?
It's her silver. The silver horse that Drogo gave her. Because it took her to bed Drogo, that was an important mount for her in her beginning.
Oh. Okay, I get what you're saying.
The mount to dread is Drogon, because he's the Black Dread reborn, more or less. And I think this is going to take her to become feared, taken seriously, and not just a child, a girl unlearned in the ways of war, or whatever the fuck she says later. And then the Mount to Love hasn't happened yet, but it's going to take her to, and this isn't my entire idea. I read a couple of things and saw a couple of videos, so I can't remember which one this came from. But this is what's going to take her to the fire to love. So 3 mounts she must ride, one to love. I think this mount is going to take her to the fire she has to light to love,
And then the treason for love is the same situation.
possibly.
All right, so then the next part is the three.
Well, what do you think about the other two? You said Drogo, Drogon.
I don't. The only one I could think of is Drogo, but like then putting it in the context of what you're saying, the mounts to get her to these things, that
Right.
makes more sense. So to bed, okay.
Because I
To
don't think you can take him as entirely sexual, like you were saying. Because
That's what I was
what the
thinking.
fuck is she gonna like? She's gonna fuck somebody to bed. She's gonna fuck somebody to dread.
Um,
That doesn't make any goddamn sense.
his Dar, she doesn't like him.
But she fucks him in a bed.
Talking about
So
dread, she dreads fucking him.
right, but like, okay, so the first one is 3 months she must ride to bed. She fucks Drogo, but you're saying it means Drogo because to bed, right?
Based off of your interpretation of the
No,
silver,
not based on mine. Because mine is about actual mounts, things and vehicles she has to climb on top of to transport her.
I
But if the
had
3 mounts means 3 sex partners to ride or whatever, the rest don't make sense. The bed makes sense, but not Dread, and like Dread doesn't fit there.
Yeah, that's why I said the only thing I could think of was Drogo, but I didn't know how to make it work with this. But taking it in your context, it makes sense. I don't
Right.
agree on your part with Drogon. I think Dread could be Drogon, but I think it would be Drogon taking her out to the Dothraki Sea because then she's scared that she's gonna have to go back to the to Vaes Dothrak with the crones, which is what she's been trying to get away from this entire time.
So the Dread means Drogon to take her away.
If that's how it's supposed to be interpreted, that the mounts are the vehicle to take her to something, I think that that's what it would be. It would be for him taking her to the Dothraki Sea at the end of Dance.
Hmm. Okay, I see what you're saying.
The love one, I have no fucking clue.
Yeah, I don't think it happened yet.
All right. So then treasons. Three treasons will you know. Once for blood, once for gold, and once for love. So blood treason, is that her usurping Viserys?
I don't think so. She didn't usurp Viserys.
Could have sworn you were on that train. That Viserys didn't deserve it.
Oh no, Viserys definitely deserved what he got.
Okay. So then, what do you think the treasons are?
Do you want to go ahead and say your golden love?
Gold I had as Jorah. Love I'm assuming at some point she's gonna fall in love and something's gonna. I don't think she loves Dario, does she? I think she just enjoys fucking him.
I mean, it's. I think she thinks she does, but it's not like she did with Drogo.
Because he could also be a treason for gold because he's a sellsword, could easily be bought, you know?
Yeah.
But if we're going through your line of thought that these are chronological, they all end in love. So to me, it would make sense that she's going to fall in love with someone. They're going to betray her. So then she lights them on fire.
So why do you think gold means Jorah,
Because he was selling her out.
but not for gold?
You're right, for a pardon.
Yeah, so he could go back home. And then, like, the third step away from that is, well, he was selling her out so for a pardon, so he could go home. And in his home, he would make money in Bear Island for gold. So it kind of falls apart for me. You know what I'm saying?
Bear Island doesn't really have any money.
Right, and it has no fucking use for gold.
But okay, you've completely debunked me then because I was just thinking of it as he was getting paid to spy on her. I forgot that it was for a pardon and not for actual, like, payment.
Right. So I think the treason for blood is Illyrio. Like once she comes and clashes, I guess, with Aegon. That Illyrio will support Aegon instead of her, and he will betray her for young Griff
Which is his blood.
because young Griff is his son or niece or nephew or something. Not his niece,
His
because he's a
niece.
boy. Well, young Griff is some sort of blood relative to Illyria. Son, nephew, grandson, who knows? But I think that's what the treason for blood is.
So you don't
And
think
that
any
would,
of these have happened yet?
not for the treasons, no.
Okay.
Because that would be a treason that definitely stands out. Some sellsword betraying her wouldn't stand out.
But she's put so much trust into Dario.
Right, but I don't think that it lines up, and then that's just assuming that Dario's going to betray her anyway, which he at least we see him through her, and he's awfully trying hard to convince her, but maybe he's telling the truth.
I think there might even be thoughts that she has that he could turn on her. Now that I think about it.
Maybe, but that kind of gets that slight paranoia that I was talking about earlier. Like, it's not consuming her, but she is looking over her shoulder slightly at all kinds of people. I don't think Ben Plum fits this either. And that's moving on to Gold. So the treason for Gold, I think, is going to be Tyrion. I think Tyrion betrays her. This assumes that Tyrion comes in, quote unquote, sides with Dany after the Battle of Marine, and I think this is going to have something to do with her promising him Casterly Rock or something like that, and then them diverging along the way somewhere, and it'll be over Casterly Rock. So either Tyrion or some other Lannister, whether it's Jaime or whatever. But the original thing I read posed an argument for Tyrion, and then there was this is later on. Kind of jumping ahead, but we'll call back to it. She sees a white lion running through the grass, right?
Yeah.
Towards the end, and the logical thing is the Harakar that Drogo kills for her. But I saw on the internet that someone compared it to Jaime Lannister, him being a lion as a Lannister, but also a Kingsguard and all white, so a white lion would be Jaime Lannister. Doesn't quite fit with the way everything else in the vision was, or the rapid visions were coming. So I don't think that's actually true, but it's interesting.
I feel like I've read that before.
I just saw it for the first time last week when I wrote this. But I think the betrayals for Gold is something to do with Casterly Rock.
I could see it being Tyrion.
Also too, like, if the show has any kind of alignment here with Tyrion and Dany coming together.
That's where I was going. Have you read any of the 8 leaks?
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. So after.
Are you going to talk about them?
No.
Okay. Cool.
I wouldn't. That would just be me being an asshole.
Well, yeah, I know. Like, that's why I was going to warn people who are listening who don't want to hear them.
I haven't read them. I haven't even read them fully. I've just read bits and pieces on Reddit that come up. I don't want to really read them. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah, I mean, just to tack onto that, if the show is any sort of a hit, the end of season 7, Tyrion is staring at the door listening to them fuck, and it's like, is Tyrion gonna do something now? So, who knows?
Oh my god, do you think there's gonna be boat sex in the book?
Oh god, I hope so.
Because it'll be so graphic. It'll be so graphic.
We had all this talk of perfect tits and
the fat pink masts and
young girls going down and making people melt. It's just, Dany with her lesbian scenes. It's just, there's gonna be so much sex. It's gonna be awesome.
Ugh. Okay.
Next do you have something else for Gold or love?
No, I was gonna go on to the next thing. Oh, do you have love?
Yes. So you said she's going to fall in love with someone and they're going to betray her.
Yes.
I think she's going to betray herself. Well, not I think, but the theory thing that I read that I'm like, oh, that looks good. And I'm claiming it for my own now. She betrays her own vision, right? She gets to a point where she's like single-minded. She's taking over Westeros or whatever. But we'll just call him John, some made up character, a generic name, I guess, John. Um, and John convinces her to abandon her old plan, which probably leads to her mount to ride to love, which then leads her to the fire she has to light for love. They kind of tied it all together really in a nice way, with all speculations and like, don't know what it is, but this could lead to this, which I don't know what it is, but it makes
She's
sense
gonna
that way.
sacrifice herself as Nisa Nisa.
Yeah, it drew up the Nissa Nissa parallels, and I was like, don't like it. I guess it's worth mentioning, so I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't mention the whole part of it, but I don't like that part. But yeah, she would betray herself for love, and then something would mount her, or she would mount something to bring her to it, and then the fire she would light would sacrifice herself as the Nissa Nissa figure to Jon's Azor Ahai. Again, not Jon Snow, just John, John Doe. And then that would complete the whole thing. I keep looking back and forth because you're here, but
I know. I'm used to it by now.
It's like I'm looking at two different people. Yeah, guys, what do you think?
Okay.
So that's what I think the three prophecies are,
Okay.
and I think I'm right.
All right. So then after the treason, she says, "I don't understand," and then they kind of make fun of her. She said, "Oh, help her, show her," and then everything starts coming at her, flying at once.
I don't think they were mocking at all.
Really?
Yeah, I think that was her interpretation of it, and I don't think they were mocking her. I think there's actual stuff to pull out from this next paragraph that makes a fuck ton of sense.
Oh no, yeah, I agree, but I feel like them saying that was them being assholes. I think the stuff they showed her was legit stuff, but I think that they were just making fun of her.
I don't see how they would make fun of her and then be like, "Oh, help her. Here's a fuck ton of help." You know what I'm saying?
All right. Okay, so, all right, first one, Viserys' gold crown. Anything to talk about it?
Yes, but I think we have to talk about them in threes. Okay? So before we read them out, there's three things she sees, and then they say a title for her, right? So this first one, there's three of them, and then it says Mother of Dragons, Daughter of Death. So these three refer to this Daughter of Death kind of theme or whatever. It says Viserys. She sees Viserys screamed as the molten gold ran down his cheeks and filled his mouth. A tall lord with copper skin and silver gold hair stood beneath the banner of a fiery stallion, a burning city behind him. Rubies flew like drops of blood from the chest of a dying prince. Ruby murmured a woman's name.
And then they call her the daughter of death. And that
Right.
death was Rhaegar's. So, RLD again.
Kind of.
What do you mean, kind of?
So the Daughter of Death isn't referring to just that last one. It's talking about Dany is now living a legacy of death.
Her
And
brother's death, her son's death, her father's death.
right, and she's living out through their legacy. Like what she's doing now is just going through what they would have done. Um, Tyrion had a quote, some fucking book, I don't know, but he's like, "We dance at the strings of our fathers before us and our fathers
Yes.
before them.
And our children, yes.
Yeah, and our children will follow on after us," which I think is what this is talking about. The write up that I saw was saying that it was a major theme to A Song of Ice and Fire, and I was like, oh yeah, fuck, clearly it is how the children carry on what their dads did and
Yes, the
everything else like that.
grudges, the missions, everything. It continues.
Exactly, and they portrayed these three in that same sort of light. So Viserys' death, she immediately, like directly picks up after Viserys and then takes on his ambitions as her own.
Okay.
She sees that future vision of Rhaego, which is what I was saying earlier. She goes through to perform herself because Rhaego's dead now. He's not going to do it, so she has to do it. And then in the end, it comes around to Rhaegar, who we think is her dad, but him dying in a fight, and then now she has to eventually pick up where he left off and then go through that. So she is the daughter of death.
What is she picking up of Rhaegar's?
The unification of Westeros.
Okay.
The Song of Ice and Fire, the prince that was promised.
Princess, because Azor Ahai or
Sure.
whatever is not gender specific or some shit. Whatever they
Yeah.
said.
Gender neutral Valyrian word.
Whatever.
It's very unclear. It's not actually written in the text because George R. R. Martin is not good enough to write languages like Tolkien. What's your next one?
Oh, the next one is Stannis. So, daughter of
And
death.
the next three. All sets of three.
Well, would you like to read it then, since you're all about the three?
Sure. But do you see what I'm saying? Like, once we get through here, we'll see if you actually
And
agree
then
with this.
Slayer of Lies, yes.
Mother Dragon, Slayer of Lies. And Slayer of Lies refers to, glowing like a sunset, a red sword was raised in the hand of a blue-eyed king who cast no shadow. A cloth dragon swayed on poles amidst a cheering crowd. From a smoking tower, a great stone beast took wing, breathing shadow fire. Mother Dragon, Slayer of Lies. So these are the lies, the false prophets that Dany has to not necessarily kill, but to expose, more or less, right?
So Stannis is not Azor Ahai.
Right. Stannis is being prophesized by Melisandre that he is Azor Ahai, and we know he's not
And then
because he's got a fake Lightbringer.
Aegon is not Aegon.
Right. Aegon is referring to the cloth dragon, the fake dragon. The crowd cheering for him, so the people are going to believe that he's real, but she's going to expose that for him not being real.
All right, and you got me on the Stone Beast. I don't know what that is.
They said that you're on, but I was like, I don't fucking. And the article, the essay, justified it saying Euron in his dragonbinder horn is going to take a dragon, and they were using that. The Great Stone Beast took wing, so he took wings, so he took a dragon from from a smoking tower. He referred to it as the High Tower, where Euron is currently heading off to.
Okay.
Breathing shadow fire. Don't know.
I don't like it.
And it was, yeah, no, this is the one I was just like, I don't know. And the lie that she would quote slay here is Euron being king of the apocalypse, and
But-
she would go there and defeat him and unseat that and prove that he's not the new ruler of the world.
But I want him to do that.
He's a horrible person.
He
But
is
yeah,
a horrible
so-
person, but he's
So
entertaining
that
as fuck.
part, I don't see how that's related to urine. Urine. Whoa, Euron. The another translation of it is Melisandre, her claiming that she would wake the stone dragons of Dragonstone.
See, that's where the only thing I could think of was that it would be the Stone Dragons.
But at the same time, I associate the Red Sword, Blue-Eyed King also with Melisandre, like a 2-for-1 special sort of deal.
Okay.
So I don't know why Mel would come up with both. And it also calls back the thing that Summer Bran Warg Summer sees in Winterfell whenever they run away.
The Chain Beast.
Right,
yeah.
the great thing that took off whatever.
Yes.
No fucking clue what that means. But it seems like it's very similar to what
What
Daenerys
she's seeing here.
sees here.
Yes.
So that part I have no idea. But the other two, the Cloth Dragon referring to Aegon, the Red Sword, Blue-Eyed King, Stannis. The thing about Stannis, the Stannis thing though, I wondered if it wasn't Stannis and actually meant to be an other, or if it meant to show that Stannis would be an other. The whole Blue-Eyed King part.
Doesn't he have blue eyes?
He does have blue eyes. But the others also have blue eyes. And it's kind of jumped out. I was like, oh, what about this, though? The
Do
whole
the
no
others have
shadow,
blue
red
eyes?
sword. Yes, they have blue eyes. Are you serious?
Are you sure?
Dead positive.
The Whites have blue eyes. Are we ever told specifically that the others have blue eyes?
Pretty sure. Like 98.9999 repeating positive that
Okay.
the others have blue eyes.
Okay.
But a lot of it just points to Stannis by himself with he cast no shadow, he had a red sword, blah blah blah. So probably not an other reference, but I was like, ooh, what if though? I was jumping into I was playing up the theories.
Okay, go with the Bride of Fire 3.
Bride of Fire. So the article was admittedly a bit shaky here because this was written when George R. R. Martin had that 5-year gap plan in place, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this was
Yeah.
written when he thought it was going to be 3 books.
Right. Oh, no. This was like at this point he jumped from the 3-book thing. Game of Thrones, I think, is when he was
When he
like, "Oh
realized
fuck, I
that it
got
wasn't
too
going
much
to.
shit."
Okay.
Right. So the Bride of Fire is referring to the 3 people that she was supposed to officially marry, and his dar was not supposed to be a thing here.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
her silver was trotting through the grass to a darkling stream beneath a sea of stars. A corpse stood at the prow of a ship, eyes bright in his dead face, gray lips smiling sadly. A blue flower grew from a chink in a wall of ice, filling the air with sweetness. Mother Dragon's Bride of Fire. So the 3 people that Daenerys was initially intended to betroth and or marry. Canceling out his dark, canceling out Quentin. Okay?
Okay.
Her silver trotting through the grass, blah blah blah. That's
Easy.
Drogo.
Yeah.
Easy. This next one is a bit interesting. A corpse stood at the prow of a ship, eyes bright in his dead face, gray lips smiling sadly. And this is supposed to represent Greyjoy. Okay?
Okay.
So, corpse stood at the prow of a ship. That's kind of already signifying Euron a little bit, don't you think?
I have it as Aeron, but go ahead.
Fair enough. Eyes bright in his dead face. I still think that kind of references Euron in his shining blood eye, right? And then the Greyjoy part that kind of sold it for me was the gray lips smiling sadly. So it's gray, and then smiling, meaning joy, right?
Yeah.
So that like that's where they pulled the Greyjoy from, and then the sad. So whether or not it means Euron or Victarion, it's some sort of Greyjoy envoy sent to initiate this betrothal to her being to her to a Greyjoy.
If that is what these mean, is it's supposed to be the people that she's supposed to marry, then yes, I agree it's Victarion. But prior to that, I had always just assumed it was Aeron, based off of the Forsaken, because he's tied to Euron's ship at the end of the Forsaken.
Right, but his eyes aren't really bright. He's not smiling. He's not sad. He's terrified. He's not standing at the prow of a ship. He's strapped to it. So where Aeron is at the front of a ship, I think that's where the similarities end.
Fine.
But the only other thing I could think of was it meaning John Connington coming from Essos to the Stormlands. He's a corpse because he's infected with the Grey Plague,
Grayscale,
which
yes.
comes back with the gray lips smiling sadly. His eyes are bright because he's determined now. He has his vision, like his things are in motion.
Okay.
But it's where those might apply to John Connington, it doesn't fit with the rest of the other 2. You know what I'm saying? And it
Yeah.
doesn't fit with his Bride of Fire thing. Unless it's somehow supposed to insinuate him representing young
Aegon.
Griff.
Mm-hmm.
But again, young Griff was mentioned as a part of the Slayer of Lies, if that part is correct. So Greyjoy is, I think, the next best argument.
I think it's a Greyjoy regardless. I don't think there's an argument for it to be anybody else.
Right. And Victarion is currently sent in A Dance with Dragons to, or is it Feast where he's sent? Fuck it, whatever. Victarion is sent over to Slaver's Bay to bring back Daenerys to marry Euron.
Yes.
So,
But Victarion
boom.
wants her for himself.
Right. Greyjoy. Blue flower grew from a chink in a wall of ice, filling the air with sweetness. Don't know, we'll just call this person John again. Does that sound fair?
Sure.
Interesting point about the sweetness part, because I brought up last time how sweet smells and tastes and shit like that are
Lies.
written in to cover up more nasty shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if this is supposed to fit in with that kind of undertone,
Okay.
or if it actually is supposed to be just like, oh, he's nice.
Well,
So,
are blue roses associated with sweet smells?
it's a rose. Oh, I guess.
Well, they're the winter roses. I don't know.
Again, clearly that's for someone named John. And that rounds out the trifecta in Bride of Fire. So, what do you think of that? Those three, or that section is divided into threes that refer to Daughter of Death, Slayer of Lies, Bride of Fire. Does that make sense or no?
Yes, it does make sense.
Cool. Well, that was boring. I thought I'd have to fight you on it.
No, it makes sense, like, to read it that way. I have never read it that way or read anything about it reading that way.
Well, I didn't either, but someone else wrote about it. And I'm not plagiarizing it, but
Well, you're also not giving credit to the person who came up with it.
yeah.
And some people look down on that very harshly.
That which requires him to listen this far in to get mad about it.
All right, so then after that is the house with the red door again. Then she sees Mary Ma's door bursting into flames. And then she sees the man that they dragged behind the silver horse, the wine cellar. Um, and then she sees the crones at the Mother of Mountains. And then after that, so all of those things have happened, right?
Right. Yeah, it's
Okay.
almost like a recap of Game of Thrones.
And then after that, she sees 10,000 slaves, and that's where we get the Misa Misa from Astapor, right?
Well, before then she sees the crones kneel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that happen in a Game of Thrones?
When she's eating the heart and they decide to name Rhaego the stallion that mounts the world, um, that's the only thing I can think of, because otherwise it would have to be when she gets to Vastothrak and she somehow manages to take over, then maybe they worship her. But then it's chronologically out of order, and that bothers me because Misa
Yeah.
Misa was before that.
Yeah, no, that was my discrepancy with it all too. Is that if the crone's kneeling is supposed to be a future vision, it happens out of
It's
order.
out of order.
So I don't know.
Okay, so Misa Misa, and then after that, Drogon basically wakes her up,
Right.
and they're eating her eyes and all of that. Fucking
But
weird
then they
shit.
die, and it's all hunky dory.
And Drogon sets them on fire, and then when she finally gets out, Pyat Pri is doing this weird dance and tries to get her with a knife, but Jogo and Ricaro, am I saying that right? Ricaro body slams him, and that's the end of that.
Well, the sound of the whip was never so sweet. I think, yeah, well, I mean, that fits the pattern. And never was a sound so sweet because it was actually vicious. Yeah, so that about wrapped it up. Okay, so it's called Fires, Mounts, and Treasons, Unraveling the Undying. And it was written a year ago by Yezen on the Internet, all one word, YEZENONTHE, Internet. Yezen on the Internet. It's a WordPress. And
Okay.
we'll see if I can't copy and link this whenever we post it on our YouTube or something. But yeah, it has some really good ideas. I'll still post this so people can kind of read it in an actual coherent form instead of trying to decipher all the nonsense and bullshit that I was talking about. But it's very convincing stuff, and if you made it this far and you want to get more into it, that'll be. I'll post that somewhere. I'll make it readily available.
Okay. So, is Dany 5 the last Dany chapter of Clash of Kings? I believe it
I
is.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so we got one more Dany chapter coming up, and then after that, we don't know what we're doing yet.
John?
Or Bran. One of
What's
them.
his face? What's his face picked John, right?
I thought he didn't pick one yet. Fuck, I don't know. We got to go back through the chat log.
I was angling for him to pick John.
I don't remember.
I don't know why, but I didn't want to do Bran.
Okay, so we're doing one of the Stark males next.
uh,
He has.
he's
It's
not.
fuck, how is he not a Stark? Who are his parents? If it's
Ned.
Rhaegar and Lyanna, Lyanna is a Stark. If it's Ned and Ashara, Ned is a
He's
Stark. If it's
he's a
Brandon and Ashara,
Snow.
it's... Fuck you.
It's Catelyn and Edmure. And that's why she hates him, because he's a product of incest.
And that's why he has bright red hair.
I mean, the two recessive genes cancel out. George R. R. Martin is big on writing genetics. So, yeah, tune in next week to hear us close out Dany and our recap of her arc in A Clash of Kings, which is basically this episode. And then we'll move on to someone probably more interesting, because I don't know how anything could be as boring as Daenerys Karth arc. But I know Arya has some fun stuff, Tyrion has some fun stuff, and Jon does some shit. Bran loses. And Sansa just panics for a whole book.
Sansa and Tyrion are going to be the last two we do.
Right. Tyrion definitely will be the last. Bran has Theon in it, though, so all you Theon fans will enjoy that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, comment, let us know your ideas on the Visions of the Undying, and join our Facebook group, searching for it by A Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones. Yeah, Game of Thrones
ASOIAF/GOT.
Oh, right, it's the abbreviations. So the abbreviations, book / show, discussions and theories on Facebook. And let us know if you came to the group from us. It'll be, I don't know what it'll do for us. But yeah, it's a good community. Lots of ideas around. You can make friends. You can fight with people. It'll be great. So tune in to us next time. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks, guys.